So now we're ready to begin our TotalFlash installation. We're going to start at this left side corner over here, and we're going to show just how easy it is to install our preformed 26 gauge metal corner drip edge along with our 14-inch tall outside synthetic rubber corner boot. So we're going to put a nice bead of sealant on the underside of this metal corner drip edge. And we're just going to set it in place. And the nice thing about these outside corner drip edges, they're single piece, they're welded at the corner, and they're cut proof at the tip. So the next step of the installation, we're going to take our synthetic rubber 14-inch outside corner boot. We're going to dry fit it in place. And as we can see, it kind of hangs over the metal drip edge corner here. So we're just going to take a Sharpie here, and we're just going to kind of mark off what we need to trim on this. We'll draw a straight edge on both sides. We'll trim it, and we'll mock it up and put it in place. And the cool thing about these boots is they are super easy to cut with just a basic pair of scissors. So now we've got a dry fit in place. Our next step, we're going to apply our BTL butyl sealant around the outside perimeter of the boot. And we're also going to show you a little trick that we have here in applying the sealant. Just something a little fun. So we've got our sealant applied around the outside perimeter of the boot. And as you can see here, I've got a couple little loops on either end. And the reason that we do that is because if you've ever worked with butyl, once it's on you for the rest of the day. So we just did this to make a little area to hold, so you can go ahead and put it in place. So now that we have our corner boot in place, and I've pushed down around the outside perimeter of the boot, you're going to see the butyl sealant ooze out from the sides, and that's exactly what you want to see. That's showing that you've got a gasket now that's going to prevent water from getting underneath of that corner boot. So step 3 of our TotalFlash panel installation, we're going to take our first panel. This panel is comprised of a 40 mil non-asphaltic membrane, PVC turn bar, our drainage mesh with included weep tabs, and our stainless steel drip edge. Now each box comes with one starter panel, and that starter panel is going to have your termination bar and your drip edge that align on the left side to start on the furthest left corner of your wall. So before we lay our first panel in place, we're going to start by putting a bead of sealant on the back of the substrate, about 6 inches up the wall. We're going to work our way down to the brick shelf. We're going to come all the way down the length of that first panel. So now that we have our bead of sealant down on the brick shelf, we're going to take our non-asphaltic panel and get ready to put it in place. So for this particular installation, we're going to actually use the adhesive part of it. So I've lightly scored the release liner on this panel and removed some of it just to help me get the panel in place. It'll help stick to the brick shelf and just start coming up the wall a little bit. All right, so now we're ready to install our first panel. We're just going to come in, we're going to line it up with our 90-degree metal drip edge corner. And we're just going to kind of set this in place. And the bead of sealant that we placed down on the brick shelf is going to help hold it in place. And then we're just going to work this into the wall. So now that we've got this set, I'm going to remove the rest of this release liner. And you can see how easy it is for one person to install this section. And then the non-asphaltic adhesive is going to help hold this easily against the substrate to give you time to get your holes drilled and your termination bar secured. So step 4 in this flashing installation, we've come to the end of a flashing run. So before we install our next TotalFlash panel, we're going to go ahead and install a right synthetic rubber end dam. So first thing we're going to do, we've got to dry fit into place. As we can see, it's hanging over the brick shelf a little too far. So we're just going to mark it and trim it about a ½ inch or so back from the edge of the brick shelf. Dry fit it back in place. So next step, we'll come in and just apply sealant. Now that we've got our sealant set in place, we'll go ahead and set the boot. And just as we do with the outside corner, we're going to push this into place. We want to see that sealant ooze out around the edge of the end dam. That'll let us know we've got a good seal, so no water can get back behind that end dam. So before we start step 5, I want to point out on our panel that's already installed that our PVC turn bar is held back 6 inches and our drip edge runs long 6 inches. So that's going to be the start to our lap. As you can see on the panel that we're going to install next, our turn bar is lined up all the way at the edge and our drip edge is offset 6 inches that way. So what that'll do is when we come in, the membrane is going to overlap in this area and the turn bar and the drip edge will line up appropriately. All right, so we're ready to set this next panel. We're going to line the drip edge up first, get it set on the brick shelf, and we'll set that down into the sealant. Make sure this is nice and flush. You will start working that panel back into the back of the brick shelf. We've already pulled off part of the release paper, so this will stick. Move this little piece of lap that I had there. Now we have not put sealant on this lap because this membrane will bond to itself. However, we are going to put a bead of sealant on the exterior of the joint once we get this all in place. All right, so now that we've pulled the rest of the release paper, we're just going to keep working its way up the wall. Now don't be concerned if the termination bar does not perfectly line up with the other membrane. That's perfectly normal in the field. We're going to seal the top of that a little bit later on anyways. So as we start to wrap up the installation of TotalFlash, our next step is going to be fastening the termination bar to your substrate. So as you've seen, we've installed this flashing membrane as a peel and stick non-asphaltic, which is very sticky. It's held itself up on the wall perfectly fine now for quite a while as we do this filming. But over time, if we don't anchor this termination bar to the substrate, it will peel off of it and it will fail. And that will allow moisture to get back down behind the membrane and eventually cause a massive failure in the building. So what we use, we've got some zinc-coated screws. They're 2.5 inches long. We've already pre-drilled our pilot holes, and we've got our screws just kind of sitting in there for now. Our next step that we're going to do is we're going to peel back the termination bar just a little bit. We're going to put some sealant behind the termination bar, and what that's going to do is help create a gasket. As we push it back into place and tighten the screws, you're going to see that sealant ooze up. To complete the installation, we're going to just strike it clean, and that will be it. That'll wrap up the installation.